You can run a workshop that goes perfectly and still makes almost zero sales. Full room, great energy, people telling you in the chat how helpful it was, but then no sales come through or way, way less than you were actually hoping for. This episode is about how to deliver your workshop so people leave ready to buy, how to follow up in a way that converts, and how to turn the whole thing into a system that gets stronger every round you run it. This part of the process is about everything that happens once and after you go live, delivering your workshop, selling in the days that follow, and turning the whole thing into a repeatable system that gets optimized over time and compounds fast. So let's quickly recap my monthly workshop system. So step one was planning your workshop and nailing your topic. Step two was setting up your workshop sign-up system, and these two were covered back in part one. So if you haven't watched it yet, definitely start there, since you'll be missing a huge part of the foundation that the system is built on. Step three was promoting your workshop, and step four was creating your workshop content. These two were covered in part two, and same goes for that one. Go back and watch it first if you skipped ahead, because everything that we're doing builds on the room that you filled and the content that you prepared, which brings us to this episode, the final part three, the final part of the series. And we're covering the last two steps of this system: delivering your workshop and following up to make sales, and then turning it all into a repeatable system that gets better every single round. This is the part where the work that you've done starts paying you back. Everything that you've built so far, the sign-up page, the promo content, the workshop itself, gets reused and refined from there. Next month, you're running a system that you've already built and making it better each time, instead of exhausting yourself like the first time you ran it, creating a new workshop from scratch again. So let's start with delivering your workshop and the window that opens up the very moment it ends. Workshop day has its own energy. The session ends, the adrenaline settles, and then comes the window that most people underplan for. The 5 to 7 days after your workshop is where the conversion rate is actually made. The emails that you send, the conversations that you're going to be having with warm leads, the consistency of showing up even when it feels like nothing is happening or moving forward. That's what determines whether the workshop pays off the way that it should. And most people do this for like a day or two and then let the window close before it's done its full job. They take that little evidence that nothing is working and let it completely derail them. So there are 5 things that have to happen here, and let's go through each one. So priority 1 is to plan your follow-up promo. Hosting a workshop can take a lot out of you. Even a session that goes really, really well can leave you feeling socially spent. When you wrap up and finally close your laptop, the last thing that most people feel like doing is sitting down to create content, come up with angles, or figure out what to send next. So that's why we want to have your post-workshop sales plan fully mapped out before you even go live, because that's what's going to prevent that. When the workshop ends and everything is already waiting and ready to go out. So here's what to do. I want you to set your promo start date, end date, and I want you to count your total number of promo days. Then you're going to map out how many emails, how many posts, how many stories that you're going to publish across that sales window. Usually this is the daily sales emails, with more in the last 48 hours and in the first 24 hours if you're doing a same day bonus just for workshop attendees. Your sales emails shouldn't go out all to your full list. The method that I recommend is actually called the interest list strategy, and it's one of the ways that my clients can protect their list while still selling consistently. The replay and same day bonus emails go out only to workshop attendees. Your first broader announcement email or two go to your interest list, so the people who may be engaged with your pre-workshop content click through to the sign-up page and signaled interest in that way. But even though they didn't end up registering for the workshop, it's worth creating a tag for everyone who interacts with your pre-workshop content, so that that interest list is ready when the sales window opens. This is especially worth considering if you're running this workshop monthly. We don't want to be sending a full sales sequence to your entire list every single round, because that's going to create fatigue over time. The interest list strategy lets you sell more frequently to the people who are actively raising their hand, while keeping the rest of your list for the moments when they're actually ready and thinking about this thing. Anyone who clicks clicks through, those first two announcement emails can get tagged and added to the full sequence from there. Priority number 2 is to brainstorm your sales angles. So your offer promo content follows the same principle as your workshop promo that we covered back in step 2. One strong base message adapted into 3 formats: a sales email, a social post, an Instagram story, and each one starting with an angle, transitioning to the offer, and closing with a tailored CTA. The angles that tend to land in a post-workshop sales window are less about the offer itself and more about the framework behind it. This is one of the biggest mental shifts that my clients make, and it's one that tends to kind of unlock everything for them in terms of feeling weird about sales. Your job during that follow-up window isn't a hard pitch. It's to sell people on the problem, on the idea of your signature process being the solution to it and the gateway to results that they came to the workshop for. When you do that well, your offer pretty much sells itself. So the question to ask isn't what objections people have to buying your specific offer. This is where people go wrong with objections. It is the yes buts. Do they have about solving this problem at all? The reasons why they think that it won't work for them for their specific situation, the excuses that they're holding on to about why getting results is not possible for them. Those are your angles. Some questions to brainstorm from is, what's the biggest mistake that people make when trying to solve this on their own? What belief is keeping them from thinking that this is actually possible for them? What specific result did a client or yourself get that would make someone think, this is exactly what I want to? What truth do they need to hear before they're, if they're still sitting on the fence? And what part of your framework creates faster, easier results than figuring it out alone? What myth or common should does your framework flip on its head? What's something that surprised people once they were inside your program or your offer? What makes your process feel more doable than they expected it to be? I also want you to think about pulling from that thank you page questionnaire here too. The language that people use to describe their problem when they registered is often the exact copy that is going to be the most powerful in moving them to buy. Brainstorm way more angles than you need, and then you can just choose the strongest. Each day of the sales window gets a different angle, which stops the sequence from feeling like one long pitch and gives people a new reason to continue opening, reading, and clicking. Priority number 3 is to deliver your workshop. A few things that make a real difference is brainstorming your engagement prompts before you go live. Maybe an opening prompt to settle the room and learn who's in it, prompts between sections to keep people active, like discussion questions I'm thinking here, a specific discussion prompt going into your pitch that re-grounds people in the problem that they came here to solve, and a closing prompt at the end. I want you to plan these in advance because it means you're not going to have to improvise them in the moment while also trying to manage everything else. So let's talk about bonuses really quickly. So most people approach bonuses by adding more modules, more resources, more content. What you actually want is a bonus that helps people get results faster, gets better results, or get the result more easily. This is what makes a bonus feel genuinely valuable rather than like padding. So keep this in mind for all of your bonuses, but in particular, the same day bonus strategy is a great way to mobilize buyers within that first 24 hours after the workshop. Helps you prevent you from feeling like, oh crap, this is not going very well, if we start to see some sales and build some momentum right away. So what actually works for the same day bonus here is a personalization element, a small done for you deliverable, might be a coaching call or a mini intensive that's exclusive to same day buyers. This matters, especially when you're selling a leveraged offer, because most people buying a course or a group program won't get direct access to you, right? Or as much as they want. A personalization bonus tells them that even though this offer is built to scale, their experience of it can still feel tailored to them. That assurance increases the likelihood that you'll actually follow through and get results, which of course is what you want. Priority number 4 is to follow up and send the replay. So immediately after the workshop ends, I want you to share that same day bonus link with attendees, then get the replay out as quickly as possible. Download, transcribe, or upload your recording with captions. Send the replay and recap to all workshop attendees, and then follow up personally with anyone who registered but didn't attend live. They opted in, they raised their hand for this topic, so a personal note from you, not just an automated replay email, can be what moves them from interested to buying. So reach out for the purposes not only of checking in, but also opening the doors to any questions that they have too. Save the chat and the questions that came through during the workshop. These will be become future content angles and messaging gold that you'd otherwise lose. Priority number 5 is to sell every day. The daily system for this phase is simple. You want at least one email scheduled and sent, at least one post or story, and at least 1 to 3 personal conversations with warm leads. Having a clear daily checklist for this window matters because it's going to remove some of the decision fatigue of figuring out what needs to happen every day. So you'll work through it and that day's selling is done, right? The thing about tipping points here is you won't always know which email or what post made someone buy. It could be email 4 that actually moved them to the checkout page, but without emails 1, 2, 3, email 4 would have never been able to do its job. I want you to remember this. Every touch point is building towards a tipping point that you cannot possibly predict in advance. That is why consistent daily present matters even when the sales notifications aren't necessarily coming in yet. It's also why keeping the cart open too long works against you. The longer the window stretches, the harder it is to maintain that energy, right? So we want it to be long enough. Usually 5 to 7 days is that sweet spot, but short enough to keep the urgency really genuine and your momentum up. The most valuable thing that you can do alongside your daily emails and posts is to personally touch base with your workshop attendees. I call this the conversation system, and it is one of the highest converting power moves that you can leverage in that post-workshop sales phase. Step number 6, our final step in the system, is to optimize your workshop over time. The magic to this system is that it gets better every single time you run it. Round 1 is almost never going to be your best round. It's the round where you're building everything from scratch. You're getting a feel for what your audience responds to, and you're learning what actually lands in the room. Round 2 is where you refine based on what you learned in round 1, and round 3 is where the system really starts to show what it can do, and you start to see the payoff of that effort and that time that you spent and invested into building it in the first place. So that's why I want you to be committing to at least 3 consecutive workshop rounds before evaluating whether this is working. It's one of the most important decisions that you can make going into this. Like, 1 round is nowhere near enough data, but 2 rounds starts to give you a bit of a trend, and 3 rounds gives you a system. After every round, there are 3 things you need to do. Priority 1 is creating your workshop one sheet. So one of the simplest things that makes the system easier to maintain over time, and it's so simple, you'll be like, this is dumb, right? But I want you to have everything linked for that, every asset linked in one place. So after or during your first live round, build a master document with the following: your workshop sign up page, the thank you page, the form, the workshop tag, the checkout page, the slides, the invitation emails, the nurture emails, the social media posts, stories, access link, replay and sales page, your offer checkout page, and offer thank you page. That's kind of at a minimum, but when everything is in one place, updating between rounds can take minutes instead of a morning spent like hustling through your tech stack to find that like needle in a haystack link. Priority number 2 is to do a workshop postmortem. The goal is not just to collect numbers, it's to build a clear picture of where the system is working and where it has room to improve. Think of each metric as a lever, right? When you see all of the levers laid out across multiple rounds, you can stop guessing about what has to change and start making decisions based on what the data is actually telling you. Building out your workshop results model is how that picture starts to take shape. It maps out each stage of the system as a flow with the conversion rate between each point, so you can see at a glance exactly where people are moving through and where the system needs attention. Fill it out after the first round and then keep it updated every round from there. The metrics that you're tracking, some of the metrics that you're tracking would be sign up page views, the number of unique traffic to that page, registration conversion rate, live attendance and show up rate, ad spend and cost per lead if you're running paid ads, total sales and earnings per lead, and your sales page and checkout page conversion rates. The data builds as you go, and a single round can give you a starting point, but 3 rounds is going to start to give you a pattern. And that pattern is going to tell you whether the changes that you're making in between rounds are actually working. So each metric also points to a specific part of the system. So low sign up page conversion points to maybe a messaging problem or the promo falling short. A low show up rate points to the onboarding and reminder emails, or perhaps an opportunity to add a really juicy show up live bonus. A low sales conversion points to the pitch or the offer positioning or the follow-up. The numbers are going to give you a diagnosis before you start deciding what to fix. It's going to remove a lot of that mystery. Alongside the numbers, sit with 3 reflection questions. What worked this round? what didn't, and what are 2 to 3 things you want to test or change next time. Priority number 3, based on the reflection questions, is to decide what to optimize. So your reflection questions and results model are going to point you towards where the system needs attention. Then I want you to plan max of 2 to 3 changes for a specific reason, right? If you change more than that between rounds, it's going to be really tough to figure out what actually improved things, what actually moved the needle. The goal is to go into round 2 with the hypothesis. I changed X, so I expect to see Y improve. That only works when the changes are targeted and isolated. A useful way to organize your thinking is by area of the system. So there are 5 areas to consider. The sign-up system, so your registration page, the thank you page, or sign-up automation. If your registration conversion rate is low, this is the first place to check. So a headline test, a stronger outcome statement, or a clearer call to action can all move this number. Some things to test and optimize here is rewriting the opt-in page, header, and tagline, testing different times for hosting the workshop, maybe it was a time issue, updating the thank you page questionnaire, updating the welcome email and Power PS, adding testimonials from past rounds of the workshop, another benefit to running this more than one time, the promotion system, so your promo calendar, your angles, your invite, and nurture content. If registrations were lower than expected, look here first. Were the angles connecting? Was the ramp up consistent? Was the promo window long enough? Some things to test or optimize are testing some different promotional angles instead of ones that didn't get much traction. Once it's converting well, then you can layer on paid ads. So increase the number of promo emails or posts, add on a new platform for promotion. With the workshop itself, this could be your content or your engagement prompts, your resource or your pitch. If attendance was strong but sales were low, the workshop experience or the pitch is likely where the work is. So some things to test or optimize here are adding a live only bonus for only people who show up live, adding an upsell or an order bump to increase that average order value, moving to a paid workshop instead of a free workshop, updating the workshop bonus, adding more testimonials and social proof, focusing on getting higher live attendees by adding more reminder emails or an add to calendar feature that makes it really easy. The follow-up, if the follow-up is the issue, maybe your replay delivery or your personal outreach or how quickly you moved people into the sales window. If you had a warm leads who didn't convert, look at what happened in the 24 to 48 hours after the session ended. Some things to maybe optimize or improve here is improve the replay email, rework the pitch section, increase number of emails and posts during the promo window, play with the length of promotion, add on an interest list strategy if you didn't use it in the earlier rounds, improve personal outreach for no-shows, testing different promotional angles instead of the ones that didn't get much traction, the offer and the sales page, so your sales sequence, your bonus structure, your email angles during the sales window. If your sales page conversion rate was low, the offer positioning or the bonus is the place to perhaps start. So some things to test or optimize here is to test a new 24-hour bonus. Try new bonuses in general for the entire offer or launch. Add mid-cart bonuses, rework sales page headline, add an abandoned cart sequence, redesign your checkout page, add a payment plan option to make it a bit more accessible. The area your results model is pointing to most clearly is where to focus on first. One change there. If there's room for a second, choose a different area. The rest of it stays the same, and that's what makes round 2 a real test here. The other thing is an optimization mindset. So I hosted a workshop on this exact system. It was very, very meta. One of the attendees kept stopping me throughout and saying, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Every section that we covered was another thing that she hadn't implemented. My response was, that's actually a really wonderful position to be in. It's way worse to finish a workshop with no idea of what you could possibly improve than to finish it with a full list of things to roll out. The second means that you have a roadmap. The first means that you're hoping the next round goes better for reasons that you can't explain. The temptation after a round that underperformed is to overhaul everything. I want you to resist that at all costs. Like I said, pick 2 to 3 things maximum, because if you change more than that between rounds, you're not going to know what actually worked. You want to look at your numbers after round 2 and say with some confidence that the specific change you made is what produced that improvement. That only works if you're isolating your variables. A useful way to think about it is like one main change max per section of the system. In the sign up system, the promo content, the workshop itself, the follow up and offer sequence. That gives you clear areas to work in and stops you from changing everything at once and learning nothing from it. The results compound because your understanding of what works for your specific audience compounds. Every round you run it, you know more than you did in the previous round before. Clients hire me specifically to help them build out this workshop system. We do the whole thing together, the build phase, the promo plan, the sales sequence. It's one of the most common things that I help people with in coaching is building out this sales system. And this is like the one that's probably working the best right now. This is like, it is a 3 to 12 month coach consulting partnership. And this is just like one of the projects that we can work on where we build your entire custom scaling strategy and your lifestyle first business model system. If you're interested in coaching, you can check out the link down below this video and set up a free call for us to go through your plans for your sales system and what your business model might look like. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. You now have the entire system from start to finish, from planning your topics, setting up your sign up system, all the way through promoting it, delivering it, and following up to make sure that you're making sales and optimizing it round after round. A lot of people are going to watch a series like this, thinks it sounds really smart, and never actually run the thing. The ones who do, even if it's so messy in that first round, are the ones who are going to end up with a repeatable way to fill a room and make sales every month. And that is the whole reason this system exists. Your first round is not going to be perfect. It isn't supposed to be, but run it anyways and then run it again. The system rewards repetition and momentum. So the people who start, watch their numbers, and refine as they go are the ones who are going to end up with a workshop that does the heavy lifting for them. When you're ready, choose your topic, set your date, and put your first workshop on the calendar. You've got everything you need now, and you're far more ready than you think, and I can't wait to hear how it goes.